Love, light, and blessings. This is Shamanic Awak Priestess here, and welcome to today's Paranormal Series video. Yes, I'm going to be making more frequent Paranormal Series videos now that we have revamped the channel. Before we get started on today's Paranormal Series videos, a witch gotta get paid, and yes, I'm in my Halloween outfit because everybody knows I'm a Halloween enthusiast. I live the Halloween lifestyle every day because my house is decorated in Halloween decor all year round. I might do a little house tour because my house really looks like this every day, but I just tend to step it up a little bit for Halloween, but it really does look like that every day. But before we get started, if you want a one-on-one reading with Shamanic Awak Priestess, you can go to my website, shamanicawakpriestess.com. My website will be in the description box of each and every one of my videos. You can also get an authentic spell work. You call that in America. I say workings in my culture. If you want me to do workings for you, that's also available in my website, shamanicawakpriestess.com. I also offer one-on-one pay-as-you-go mentorship, also available on my website as well. So readings, mentorships, rituals, all those wonderful things available on my website. Also, if you want to become a member, you can get honest, non-sponsored book reviews, learn about Orishas, learn about Ifa, learn about more about my closed traditions, ongoing series, angel series, healing ancestral traumas, past lives, and so many other spiritual topics, more hands-on learning. Also, at certain levels, we have witch and coven meetings. So if you want to be actually part of our online coven, join my memberships, daily messages, so many more benefits. It's amazing what you get for your money. You can join the click button on memberships and join at the level that you can and are comfortable. Okay, so those are the different things you can do. And as always, a good way to support me, free all the time, like, subscribe, and comment and share my videos and raise the algorithm. And that will inspire me to continue to make this content. Now back to the regularly scheduled program. And I am hyper because I'm drinking coffee. So today's Paranormal Series episode is going to be about, hair in my mouth, is going to be about my journey through divination. Like what my spiritual journey through divination. I have tried so hard over the years to do tarot tags, ones that resonated with me. And while I've enjoyed most of the ones I've done, it has always been longer than I've wanted them to, me over explaining things. And I've always felt like I've never really truly done justice because I've always felt like I've had to cut down my responses because I feel like it's always been really hard for me to feel like I fit into the tarot community. I've never really seen myself as a tarot 2 content creator because even if you look at my videos, I've done walkthroughs, blah, blah, blah. My channel has never really been heavily based on tarot 2 content, right? I've always been kind of on the middle ways or gray areas, that kind of thing. And now that I've completely shifted away from that content because it doesn't feel authentic to me, again, it's just not something that I do well in. I noticed that my tarot tags are the least watched most of the time because I don't think people find them that interesting. Some people do, but I just don't feel like, especially the last one that I did, like I really didn't get a lot of feedback. So I just realized that tarot tags are just not for me. I guess I don't answer the questions properly. So I'm going to do my own. It's not a tag. I'm not asking nobody to do a VR to it. It's my explanation of why I have a connection with Rider-Waite, particularly. I have so many different versions of Rider-Waite Smith deck. I don't really like the mass marketed US games anymore. They don't have any diversity. Now I like that Etsy and other people have like decks like this where it has like brown people. So it will be like all brown people, or some decks have like this one real quick, sorry. This one is mass produced, but they'll have other ones on Etsy that you could buy, or this one is mass produced. I'll show this one real quick. This one is mass produced, and it has a little bit more, racial diversity, but it'll have like pixies, art if you want to, go more traditional, whatever. So we'll put this one out for the video. But basically, my journey to tarot, but the way that I do it, which has a lot to do with mediumship, spirits, loas, and my background. Okay, so for those of you that don't know, I practice close traditions. Okay, so I grew up heavily in espiritismo criollo, you know. I have a background. I'm Puerto Riqueña and I'm also Haitian. So I grew up with espiritismo criollo. I grew up heavily in Afro-Latino culture, you know. Espiritismo is practiced in Spanish. It just is. I know a lot of Latinos don't speak Spanish, and there's a lot of people that are not Latino that are called to it or whatever. And that's fine. Like, I have translated those classes to English and I have taught them a lot last year. I did a lot of classes last year. That's why this year I had to take like a mental break because I was just doing so much last year, right? And basically, so, but a lot of times, the prayers and everything are in Spanish. People, so it's hard to get anybody to teach them in English. But Espiritismo is mediumship. It is talking to the ancestors. It's a lot of stuff. I'll make a video I made a video before about what Espiritismo is, so we don't have to go through all that. But basically, it's mediumship, and talking to the spirits and elevating your spirit card and a bunch of other stuff. So I grew up around that, I grew up around, practicing hoodoo. I grew up around, Santeria, as a young girl, I received, some of my orishas and rituals and stuff like that, head cleansings and ceremonias and stuff like that when I was little. I got to know who my orishas were through a babalao, through my mother's, padrino, all these things, okay? So I did receive very young. I'm talking about a little girl, because you can't receive spirits little. So I was trained from a young child, right? Then I went into Christianity, but I'm just saying, but I was trained. That does not negate that I was trained. I was foretold. This child has a gift. This child is called into this, okay? That calling scared me, so I ran into the Pentecostal church. And I've talked about this. That caused a strain in my relationship because that religion told me that was demonic, right? But since I was little, I have always seen spirits, okay? I don't need this. And I'm going to be real honest with you, to see nothing. I'm going to explain in this video why tools are used when I read you, but I don't need it. That's the difference between a psychic and an intuitive. An intuitive person needs tools. A psychic does not. A psychic can see spirits. A psychic can communicate, right? A psychic medium can communicate. A psychic can channel. A psychic can feel energies. And a psychic can see things through dreams and visions and all. I'm just being real. People could get mad, whatever. I'm telling you the truth, okay? So somebody in my videos was like, yeah, it's Easter eggs because I see orbs all the time. Me and the spirits, that's something that I've learned to accept later on in life. I have always walked between the worlds. And me and the spirits, we just got to understand that that's just what it is, okay? And I'm going to be honest, not everybody has that gift. Like, you can elevate that gift to a certain extent. And this is not me, like, blowing air up my booty hole. I have paid the price for what I have. But what I'm saying is, and there are other people that have relationships like I do. But I'm saying it's not common. You're not going to see that every day. I think that's a common misconception. You can elevate to a certain extent. But, I just have what I have. I thought it was commoner than what it is, more common than what it is. But talking to other people, they're like, girl, I don't do that. So I'm learning that it's not as common as I thought. But that's not what this is about. So, yes. So I've been seeing stuff since I was little, okay? When I went to church, and this is what helped me to transition to voodoo. I was already speaking tongues. When I would go to church, I would cry in the church. And I would get the Holy Spirit, because the Holy Spirit's real. Okay, let's not, is real. Okay, I would cry and I would speak in tongues and all that stuff, right? And I would minister to people and pray to people little and foretell, because they call it in church prophecy. And the pastor usually didn't like people doing that with the adults, but the pastor had foresight. He allowed me to minister to the people. This is when I left the Santeria path. I was ministering to people at the church because I would hear. God said this. I told a lady, God said, you're going to get pregnant. You had a lot of miscarriages. How a little girl who's 9 or 10 years old, I'm getting the chills now, going to know that a grown woman had X amount of miscarriages, blah, blah, blah. See, I was predicting and I was seeing, because when I see here. I see events. Now, my gift, I don't, and I think it's because I don't care. I don't care if somebody's eyes are blue and hair is blonde. I just see events like a movie. I don't care about descriptions. When people are like, oh, how does this? I don't care about that. I care about the events and the outcome. Do you understand? That to me is minute. When spirits are showing me stuff, it's quick, okay? I'm not going to disrespect the spirits like, oh, this client wants me to know the eye color. Who the hell cares? I'm talking about events right now, because you have skeptics. I don't care if you're skeptic. I don't care if you believe. I'm going to tell you what the spirit saw. You come back to me or not, I don't give to doo-doos. But most of the time, nine times out of 10, they come back. You know what I'm saying? Because you're not going to play test the psychic with me because I don't care. You know what I'm saying? And that's not because I'm coming all cocky or whatever. I'm confident in my spirits. I don't need to be insecure trying to prove to you what I see, what I don't. You know what I mean? Anyway, so, I'm laying hands on her and I tell her, and she did have a child. That was true. And my pastor was like, ooh. So when I was little, because I am technically still ordained minister, okay? Just a little fun fact about me. So basically, I laid hands. I did all the things, okay? So shamanic Outlaw priestess does have a heavy, strong, okay? You can fact check that now. I got baptized at 12 years old in Pentecostal religion, okay? I was part of the children's ministry. I used to go get the pamphlets. I did all that. I remember giving Bible study. I was a young teenage girl. My pastor, who didn't even let young people take anything, I was supposed to be giving a Sunday school to adults because I knew scripture backwards and forwards. That's what hoodoo works for me, because I could quote, boo, boo, boo. Okay, I could quote. Like, don't be trying to when they try to use the Bible against me. I'm like, listen, y'all don't scare me with the hell thing, because, I ain't Christian no more. Like, your Bible be contradicting itself. But that's another time for another day. Don't worry, y'all don't scare me with the scriptures. But anyway, so I was preaching, and I remember preaching the word. And the pastor's like, this ain't preaching. This is a Sunday school. And the spirit spread, because when I would speak, people, and that's what people say, when you are passionate about something, you sound like a minister. Like, you give me the chills, because I have that discernment. I'm a minister. So we know how to, be charismatic. We have that spirit in us that we can speak with passion. That's why I still have that to this day. When I'm passionate, when I'm spirit filled, now it's with the Orishas, Lords, and ancestors, I can speak with that passion. You know what I'm saying? Because I got trained since I was little. First through Santeria, then through Pentecostal. I've been doing this since I was a little girl. So, and even though I strayed and I rebelled, a little girl growing up in the Bronx, I got in trouble with the law. I'm juvie, so they do expunge that. But, and even though I backslided and I wasn't perfect, I always had this desire for God or whatever you believe God to be, I always had desire that I knew there was something bigger than myself. I always had a desire for spirit. I always saw, and I made videos about this, so I'm not going to elaborate. I got traumatized a lot because I had a lot of demonic and low-level entities that haunted me. There's always been a fight with me with light and shadow. And I thought that was because of my mother practice, but I wasn't understanding that as a medium, we attract light and shadow, okay? As I started to get more spiritually evolved, and I left the Pentecostal church, okay? That little girl that was preaching where people would literally jump. And I'm talking about, I'm a 13, 14, 15-year-old girl preaching the word like a grown person. People screaming, running to aisles, giving their life to the Lord. I'm preaching like a grown person. And then I'm a girl too, because a lot of times, misogyny at that time, I'm 44 years old. It was a man's thing. You know what I'm saying? But then that wasn't my calling. You understand? When I started going with my mother and she put me on that mesa, and I started going to the meetings, to misa, and started going to with espiritismo, right? That is very charismatic. People get possessed very similarly to the church. And the spirit went in me and I was speaking tongues. It felt very home. And people were like, wow, she come out spirits. I had that training from when I was 9 years old in the church. So when the ancestors and the spirits were talking through me, I already knew how to do that. I already knew how to take on a possession because I was doing that in the church. So now I understand why, because sometimes the spirits come through and allow us to go through certain paths. So I don't regret when I was Christian. A lot of people want to regret and disassociate. I don't, because I understand that even when I was that little girl, the spirits were teaching me how to speak to people, how to touch the hearts of people. You understand? How to receive spirit. You understand what I'm saying? That trained me for when I got older and I was in my 20s and I was seeking some type of help because I was going through stuff with my son and my mother, because now I understood that what she was doing was not evil. And at that time she was elevated and she had clients. And, through the copa, through the cup and the chalices, I got to see all these visions, same visions that I had saw in church. And I was like, wait, this is very similar. This is very similar. She's calling on God. She's calling on saints. She's calling on this. She's calling on that. The saints are naming Mayana, but she's calling on stuff. Wait a second. Pentecostal, they don't do saints, but you know what I mean. I'm like, oh, but this doesn't feel evil. This feels like this wind and this cleansing energy. From the first moment she activated that altar, when I went to meetings with her and I saw how they would lay hands and heal people, it was life changing. Okay. As I later transitioned, right? And I just, went back into Santeria and realized that wasn't for me, but I was able to receive the orishas that I needed to receive, which I work actively with La Siete Potencia. So I work actively with 7 orishas. Okay, I work with La Siete Potencia, but actively with 5 orishas, right? And when I did that, and I received my orishas, and I was like, yes, and I still work that path, but that just wasn't the religion for me. Not to knock it, just was not for me and my calling. But I still learned the Ifa principles. I still learned it, right? And as I was going and, scammed and all this stuff, when I received the first time I got on Orisha, like fully, like, no, they're not saints, they're Orishas, and they revealed themselves to me, was so powerful. Okay. I remember, being in a mesa with my mom and assisting her and telling this lady, like, yes, your child passed away, but your child is here. And then having that child come into my body, my mom retells me the story through the lady, and she says my face changed and I'm talking like this child and all these things, it was like I was channeling. And I do channel, the gifts began to evolve, and it was just so interesting and so beautiful and so validating, because I do have the gifts of speaking tongues. My tongues are actually different languages and stuff like that. And so it's just beautiful, which I'll talk about later in this video. Don't worry. And so I was like, that's so beautiful. So I did divinations like that through a mesa, but those types of channeling and mediumships, when you're doing them sporadically, that's doable. But when my mom would do reading, she would do cards, and I'm like, well, that's interesting, and they'd be, playing cards. And I would wonder why they use that. Misas are only done for certain things, but practically, for practicality reasons, psychics use tools. And I was like, why did they do that? Because I remember getting my first psychic reading. She was very accurate. But I will realize when I'm doing mediumship and channeling, it was very exhausting, right? When you're trying to be a full-time reader, you got to think like volume, right? If you're doing readings consistently, right? Because when you're doing misa, when you're doing cleansing, that's something you would do once, right? You do a big ritual, you do it once, everybody eats. Nobody does that every day, right? You're doing a feast, you're doing a meeting. That's a community thing. When you're doing a consulta, when you're doing a one-on-one session, you're not going to do this whole thing every time. First of all, it's not going to be practical price-wise. And second of all, it's not going to be practical doing that back-to-back, energetically or anything else. So I started to understand why people were using tools, okay? And I understood the difference between an intuitive person who's more book knowledge and goes by intuition versus a psychic person who just uses it because for longevity reasons or practicalities, right? So we'll get more into that because you're probably like, what are you talking about? So anyway, so basically, okay, I went from doing that, I had my regular 9 to 5, years pass, I see spirits, all the things, I'm in a bad marriage, long story short, I leave, I move 6 hours away and stuff like that. I'm on public assistance and, I had a neighbor who was like in this tumultuous relationship, and she was always like, I don't know what to do, blah, 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 blah. I wasn't going to do a misa for her. First of all, she's outside of my culture. She's, Western, European, and I'm like, I've learned early, then nothing against her, but some people don't understand our culture, and I kind of didn't want her to like, what the hell you doing? Why you getting possessed or whatever? So I was like, I don't know what to do, because I kind of want to help her, but I'm not going to sit here. First of all, I cannot afford to have a big feast and a group of people. I don't know any like Latinos here. Is predominantly like, Caucasian or European, you know what I'm saying? Area. 98% of the population is non-brown. So it's like there's nobody here that practices Espiritismo, Hoodoo, Santeria, anything like that. I wasn't yet into like voodoo yet, right? Or at least I thought I wasn't, but I realized that we was practicing it, but it didn't have a name. Let's just put it that way. So I was like, whatever, so I didn't think anything of it or whatever. And I remember this lady had these cards. I didn't know what they were called because I didn't know what the hell tarot was. I always saw playing cards, and then I saw that one tarot when I was like 25, and the lady had predicted I was going to leave my husband, which did happen. So I don't know what that is, this girl. So I just played around with a deck of playing cards. And I was like, I don't know, let's just play around with it. And I started reading them out the playing card thing. I was like, I've seen, people in my family do this, whatever. So I just started reading her, and the cards just start talking. I just prayed like intuitively, boom, boom, boom. And I just started reading them, Never read a book on the damn thing. Don't even, what I'm saying? I don't even know what I'm talking about. She's like, that's true, girl, yeah. So, but she didn't believe like the prediction part, right? Because I don't know, like the cards were like the water thing for me. Like they just little visions and my ears are ringing, and like little things started to download and whatever. So neighbor comes back a week later, and she like, yeah, girl, my baby daddy did exactly what you said, He sat here, and he went back to his wife and like a whole bunch of stuff, And let's just call her Veronica, And she like, yeah, girl, he did it. So, she's not a client's own girl. So, and she said I could tell her this story. So, and I named her Veronica. So don't be thinking I'd be telling people's business because Veronica said I could share the story. So don't be hating, okay? So Veronica said this, that, and the other, right? So Veronica goes and pays me $5. And then Veronica goes and pays me like $10 because she kept coming to me. And then I went on the site that so I could call in, like personal stuff was going on with my own fiance / BD, okay? At the time I was like pregnated, and they were acting up, and, I was going through my own stuff, going through, shenanigans, divorce, signing the papers, whatever, okay? Messy, I know, like, you pregnated and you sit here? Yes, girl, I was, okay? So anyway, because we was already separated, So, okay, so basically, I'm sitting here going through stuff with my fiance, whatever. Going through stuff with the ex-husband, his drama show, custody. Like, we're going through stuff, okay? And so I was, wanted to see whatever. And, some people sucked. And then this lady, she was good. And she was like, you should be doing this, do. I was like, girl, please. And, because, I was just doing little things here and there. So, long story short, right after I gave birth to my child, which she is, woo, 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 you know what I'm saying? She's gonna be 11, so it's gonna be 11 years. She's gonna be 11 years, okay? 11 years professionally, hey, but reading longer than professionally, longer than that, right? So, she pretty much was like, you should be doing this, da da da. And I was like, yeah, right, whatever. Because remember, I was reading people with the little playing cards, okay, before the baby, during the pregnancy, all the things, okay? So 11 years reading professionally, kind of, giving me $10 to reading professionally. Full time, it's going to be 11 years, but a little bit longer than that, whatever. So I was like, yeah, whatever. So I took my little playing cards, and they liked my reading so much on the site, they paid me, which they don't do. Within 24 hours, I broke a record of being a new reader. I got so many people to read with me from the first, point on. But I didn't use the playing cards. I got a tarot deck. So I was like, okay. So I got my little, right away, whatever. Okay. And that's what I did. But why did I get it right away? That's what we're going to talk about. So the reason why I ended up getting a right away, after they told me that I shouldn't use playing cards. I had, after I auditioned for the website and everything, and the spirits were telling me that's what they called me for, I had this dream, okay? So, the spirits were like, after I met the West Indian lady, which I made a video about that, and she foretold me that, I was going to help thousands of people, that the husband that I was with, which is the guy I was divorcing at the time, wasn't the man for me. The spirit said, we want you to help people. But I'm like, how? Like, the only way I know how to read people is like through possession. That's not realistic. And then they said, the other way that I know is like through playing cards. And so they were telling me they were going to help me. And I'm like, okay, what are you talking about? So I went into a deep sleep. There's certain things about this vision that I cannot tell you. So I'm only going to tell you what the spirits allow me to tell you. Okay. So basically, I was like in the South. Okay. And I was back in time. Like I was back in time. So I believe that I don't know what you want to call it. Okay. It was like the spirits made me time travel back in a time. Right? But I'm myself. So this was not past life at all. This had nothing to do with past life at all. So basically, I was brought into a time period. The woman looked racially ambiguous. At first, I thought she was Caucasian, but she had she had black features. She had like a yellow skin tone, but like brown, but yellow. And this is no offense, please. I know that we're like in a PC culture, but in the black community, because I am biracial, like in the South, we would say like yellow bone, red bone. So I'm not trying to offend anybody, but that's literally how we would say it. So she was like a red bone. And now I understand when I looked up her description, they actually said in the picture that I saw, because my daughter was looking up something one time, I was like, oh my God, that's the lady that I saw. And she's like, Mommy, that's Marie Laveau. And I was like, oh. So I didn't know that in the dream. Okay, disclaimer. I found that out later. Because I be dreaming about historical spiritual figures. I don't even know who they are, okay? So I was seeing her, and she was like by a fireplace. It looked like, I don't know if it was under a house, but it wasn't like an upstairs, if that makes sense. It looked like a place you would go to for like spiritual consultation hidden somewhere. You know what I mean? And she was telling me how like she worked with the Westerners and how she helped her community. And she was other stuff that I can't tell you. And she was basically interpreting cards for me. She interpreted this for me. And she was like, this means this means that, this means that, this, which kind of related to that first reading that I gave that woman. So I was like, oh, that's how I read the cards too. And she told me a bunch of stuff, okay, which I ain't gonna tell you, but she told me a bunch of stuff about voodoo and conjure, okay, and then she told me that was the path for me, that voodoo was the path for me. That's when my main spirit guide that I use for divination came to me. It was through Marie Laveau. I do not work directly with Marie Laveau. She is not my spirit guide. My spirit guide used her because she is the queen of voodoo to tell me that I have a calling for voodoo. And they gave me my mother spirit. And that was very true, because when I found my godmother, when she read me, she quoted that spirit. And I always said, if someone's to be my godparent, they have to know that that's my spirit. And they do. That is who rules me. That is my mother. Okay? That is my queen, and that's my mother. And Marie Laveau told me who it was. Okay? Got the chills there. And she told me I was going to work that route. And it's just amazing, because I have clients, and I feel so authentic when I have like Haitians speaking Creole coming to me, people from Africa wanting me to do voodoo for them, because I feel like, like African voodoo and Haitian voodoo is powerful, not to be rude, but so when I have people of that background, especially, that's so validating for me, and the spirits were like, you gonna help people, especially, my little, Afro-Caribbean, little self, I'm in America, and sometimes we feel, invalidated because we're here in America. We ain't, I ain't in Haiti, you know what I'm saying? I'm not in Africa right now, so it feels very validating, like, thank you. So she interpreted these cards, In that vision later on, I saw another woman, which I later learned that it was Pamela Coleman Smith. In my dream, she told me she was a mulatto. I don't care what your history books say, whatever. She told me she was a mixed girl. Later found out that her mother, was of Jamaican descent. Okay, her daddy white. Whatever. So, she interpreted this into this. Card for card. Which card means this? This, their interpretation. My spirit guide came as her true self, which my spirit guide is from Africa. And then this. All of these cards, boom, blah, blah. This is why I have a connection. And they said, use the deck that I'm giving you, and we will not fully possess you. But we will give you the same kind of reading if you were doing Misa and a channeling, but we will channel the cards instead of your body. That is why I use cards. And that's what I've been trying to say in my tarot tags, but I've never been able to have the time. See, it took 31 minutes. You can't take 31 minutes in one question when you do a tarot tag. The reason why I use cards, and a lot, like people know that stuff, is because we, first of all, in America, that's not going to be acceptable. Me speaking tongues, me going on the floor doing whatever, because certain spirits come on a certain way. In Western culture, that is not acceptable, okay? When you have Christian clients, that is not, they're not going to understand that. We were in a church setting, yes, when I was speaking tongues and laying hands on people, that's acceptable. When you are practicing an Afro-Caribbean spiritual practice, there's so much stigma, prejudice, racism, and anti-blackness. Let's call it what it is, anti-blackness. That I understand, and that's what Marie Laveau let me know, and Pamela Coleman Smith let me know, and they let me know that that's what we have to use this to this day. We got to use cards, because I didn't learn book meanings, honey. Our ancestors have survived using playing cards and Lenormand cards and this and that, because when we're using the cowrie shells, this, that, and the other, okay, it's demonized. Shamanic could read some stuff, but this is more acceptable, and I'm okay with that, because this is going to give me the same readings as everything else. This is a deal that me and my main guide, and that's not me assimilating, that's not me being ashamed, baby. That's called survival, and that's called making something that came from something else our own. And knowing that Pamela Coleman Smith is of Caribbean descent and grew up and spent part of her time in Jamaica makes me feel like that's ours too. You understand what I'm saying? That makes me feel represented. That made me feel represented, and I just got to call it what it is, okay? So basically, yes, she did that, okay? Then Marie Laveau comes, because she's still in the vision, showing me Pamela Coleman Smith. I found out that's who she was when when I'm researching tarot decks, and right away it comes up, and I'm like, that's the lady who I saw, whatever. Then they show me the Marseille deck, okay? French, right? This French. Remember, Haiti was colonized by the French. They show me how my ancestors use this sometimes, okay, to read for the masses, okay? But they're really reading through the spirits, because ain't nobody going to be possessed all the time, okay? They show me how in Puerto Rico we're going to use playing cards like this, the Spanish cards over here, okay? Some people have the Italian cards. You do the Spanish, playing cards, whatever, okay? So in Italy, they'll use the Italian cards. We use those too. Not being rude, I have Italian friends, but if we're going to be honest, we were colonized by the Italians in the Caribbean. We were also colonized by the Spaniards, okay, in the slave trade. This is how we adapted, and we did divinations through this. Because why? Black and brown people been adapting. We have always kept our stuff, but we kept it behind. You understand what I'm saying? Our spirits have always spoken to us. And so these are just tools, baby. But the ancestors are always going to talk. When you try to take our cowrie shells, baby, when you try to think that you are making us lose our culture, baby, the spirits have always found a way to talk to us, baby. The spirits have always found a way to talk to us. So when I'm channeling this, it's because the spirits are talking through the cards. So book meanings, associations, all that stuff doesn't mean nothing to me, because literally when I got my first deck, I didn't even look at the little white book. I was like, okay, little white book, I did the same thing. I read it accurately because my spirits told me what the hell it means. They interpreted each card what they told me the cards mean, not a book. they said this means this means that. And to this day, they still do it. Okay, later on, the books told me what it means. So when people say, teach me how to read tarot, that's a very hard thing for me to do because the meanings change all the time for me. This is why I don't like to put the camera down when I do pick a card readings and be like, this is because then you're going to try to tell me what the cards mean. You're going by academics. My spirits don't go by academics. See, I practice traditions before books. Okay, so an author could write all the little books they want. I practice the old way where those things were handed down orally to me. My spirits gave this to me and they told me this is what it means. Go and help the people. And you can read on my website. I have 5-star ratings, and that's not me patting myself on the back. That's me patting my spirits on the back. They have never let me down. Even when I was at my sickest 3 years ago and they gave me my health and I was battling for 3 years and y'all didn't even know. Because a lot of you were like, I didn't even know you were sick like that. Because my spirits guided me through that whole thing and they made me strong. And when they told me this is, you're going to do divination, this is what these cards mean, I went in there and I listened to them and I let them guide me. And that's people like, wow, that's really accurate. Because you ask the people from when I was on the psychic hotline. There's people that were from there all the way till they follow me now. And they're like, no, she good. Okay. The spirits gave me the meanings. When I'm doing the cartomancy series, the meanings are from what the spirits gave me the meanings are. Okay. So, and they might be a little different than the tarot meanings that I do because cartomancy they're going to interpret different, but they showed me how some of the cards correlate. Okay. Because, there's 52 cards and 76 cards here, but that's why I said I can't really teach you tarot because the spirits invented a different style for me. So the way that I read, there is no book on that. And my spirits don't want me to teach you how to read tarot. They said they was okay with the cartomancy. They don't want me to teach you Lenormand and they don't want me to teach you tarot. If that's what they tell me that I cannot teach you, then I have to respect the deal they made. Because they're like, we cannot have you sitting on here with possession. Because when you get possessed, especially when I started to get into voodoo, if you ever seen a voodoo possession, those ancestors, okay, those the homie tribe ancestors, okay, it be a full-on possession, okay. Sometimes I remember the first time Dambala came into, they told me this, all I remember is feeling sick. I threw up for like the whole night, and I told this story already. Okay, there's times you actually have accidents on yourself, okay? There was another time Dambala came that somebody told me I didn't know I could do this. Magicians pretend they could levitate. No, baby. Dambala, I was cleansing a space. And, you have like spiritual seizures and physical seizures. I was having a spiritual seizure. And somebody told me they got scared at first. Like, oh my God. And these were like mambos all around me because like there was this really spirit that was like trying to do stuff, and Dambala came in like, and I was the channel, and they were like, boy, you strong, because I couldn't take that on. And I was crawling on the floor, that's what they told me, and he lifted me up like I levitated. I didn't believe them. They were like, no girl, you levitated, like your feet was not touching the floor. Threw me, pow, and fell, duke, and that spirit left. Okay, and then he just kept cleansing. And they're like, girl, you was okay after that. And I was weak, but I was okay. Like, I have taken on some really strong spirits. I had a lady who has a PhD in languages, in linguistics. When people are like, I don't understand what she's saying when she's speaking tongues. And she recorded. I was telling this to a client the other day. And she told me I was speaking Yoruba. Okay? I was speaking Portuguese, Creole. Languages that I do not know how to speak. She was like, you're speaking all the, like 4 different languages. And none of the languages that I was speaking, I know how to speak. So when I speak tongues, I'm actually speaking real languages. You understand what I'm saying? I think one of them was Swahili too. I do not know how to speak anything but Spanish and English. My Creole is very terrible. So that's my point. I was in prayer one time and somebody told me I was speaking Sanskrit. Sanskrit? I think that's how you say it. I don't know how to speak that, girl. I don't know nothing about that. So that's my point. I have the gift of tongues and I do all of that. But possessions are exhausting. I cannot read you like that. So the deal that I have with my spirits that they've made with me, and I feel like a lot of people that practice what I practice, where they're like mediums, and their psychic abilities come from spiritual contact and stuff like that, we use cards. But the way that we might read cards have nothing to do with books. Now, I do know the book meanings because eventually I learned them, right? But the book meanings don't mean anything to me because the meanings of the cards change as the spirits dictate. And that's what I've been wanting to say in every tarot deck that I've done. But as you can see, it's taking me 40 minutes to explain that. Because the way that I read is channeling. It's through a specific loa. Okay? And she speaks through every deck that I own. And this is the deck that Pamela and Mary Laveau said you're going to use to speak through that particular. That's the deck that she's choosing. Forget how many variations of this deck that you want. But girl, she liked that deck. She likes that deck. And I feel like these two particular people, because Pamela Coleman Smith practiced her own stuff. Remember, she was in Jamaica, okay? This particular spirit in my dream told me that these particular individuals worked with her. Do you understand that's what the relationship was with these two people? And that's all I'm going to say about that because y'all need to know who my main spirit guide is. But that's what it is. Okay, guys? So hopefully you enjoyed this paranormal video and learn discovering my own story without questions and time limits. That is my journey through divination, and how the spirits interpreted the cards for me and why I use cards, because it's a way that I could still be because I am semi-possessed when I read people. That's why I just be saying stuff, and y'all could come back to me tomorrow. I don't remember what I was talking about. I'm like, I said, no, okay. I'll remember things there, but they speak through the cards. They let me know. They'll show me things. I'll hear things. I'll feel things, okay? But I cannot stay like, oh, I'm in a remote vision, so I'm going to stay to look at details. No, because we got to get it going. We got 20 minutes. Boom, 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 okay? All right, guys. Much love, much light, much blessings. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, please subscribe, please comment below, and let me know what you think. So, yeah, possessions, people think they're glamorous. They're not, okay? You can end up peeing on yourself. You can end up throwing up like I have. You could end up, like I said, squirming like, you know what I'm saying, slithering like a snake and getting banged up into the wall, guys, okay? But the point of a possession is to help the people. That's what people get possessed for. It's like when you're in a group ritual and the spirits have a message, and they do the same thing that people do in church. They lay hands on people, give messages, the spirit gets attended to, and they help the community. Okay, a lot of people do it for like, oh, I got possessed, look at me. Ooh. That has nothing to do with that, because being a host ain't as glamorous as you think. Okay, all right, guys, if you're interested in more content, paranormal series, things like that, let me know by watching this video and sharing. Much love, much light, and much blessing. Bye.